Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today at Ceipal Connect. Today's session is on the 2 top reasons to hire anyone. And today we are joined by the creative director of Club VMSA, Jim Coughlin. But before we jump into today's session, there are a few housekeeping items to cover. First, each session will be recorded and available on demand through Ceipal's website. A follow-up email will be sent out to all registrants with the recording and any other relevant materials after the event. Secondly, we will have an open Q&A session. I know Jim is an extremely interactive and great person to talk with, so please, if you have any questions at all, drop it in the Q&A section to the right, and we'll be sure to answer them after Jim's presentation. And finally, we are on a strict schedule today. To save time for our Q&A period, we will give a quick little 10-15-minute warning to Jim just to ensure that we wrap things up and have enough time to answer all of your questions. Now, please note also that this session will end promptly at the scheduled time. At that point, we encourage you to visit our agenda tab at the top left corner of your screen, where you'll be able to see the upcoming next sessions to pick and choose what interests you most just to listen in for the next session. And without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Jim Coughlin. Jim has mentored hundreds of staffing firms owners and has personally trained and developed thousands of industry recruiters and account managers around the globe to achieve triple-digit sales and production rates. He has personally grown 3 staffing firms of his own to successful liquidity events, and as creative director of Club VMSA, he is also in daily contact with global procurement, contingent workforce management, and talent executives around the globe. I personally have listened in to many of his daily chats. Jim hosts them at Club VMSA every single day. Always a great conversation, different topic, and a great networking opportunity. So without further ado, Jim, the stage is yours. I'm going to jump out and have you go full screen so the audience has as much as Jim as possible, and then I'll jump back to help out the Q&A.
That's a little scary, full screen. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, of course.
You guys are great. Thank you for the great introduction, and congratulations to Ceipal Connect. I hope you guys are having a great day.
Thank you. Stage is yours.
All right. Hi, everybody. Remember when you were a kid in elementary school? So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, Marin County. And yeah, I was in elementary school. It was the 60s. That's how old I am. And at PE, in physical ed class, we'd all go outside to the playground, and the teachers would pick 2 captains, Bobby and Roger. And Bobby and Roger stood on either side, and all the other kids lined up. And Bobby and Roger got to go one at a time and pick their team. I don't know what the game was, kickball, something like that. Who knows what the game was, right? Are we good? Oh, he's going away. He's coming back. Well, anyway, you remember that, right? You get picked and pick me, pick me. I know this is hard to believe, the last one picked. I was always the last one picked. And the reason being, I think now, reflecting on it, I had really thick glasses. I was a goofy looking kid. My ears were the same size as they are now, but I was much smaller. And I wasn't very good at sports. I was a little uncoordinated. I had no peripheral vision. I was always the last one picked. And I don't know if you had that experience, but that was hard for me. I really was crushed as a young boy. You can tell I'm not crushed now because I had to figure out a way to get picked. So I knew I had to improve my skill, but there was another quality too, and that was attitude. And so here's the simplest, here's my PowerPoint, okay? I'm gonna share my screen. That's my PowerPoint. Here's the 2 reasons anybody gets picked for anything. Why you get picked for a job, why you get picked to be president of the United States, why you get picked to get married to somebody. This is it. Skill and attitude. So if you're going to hire somebody, and I'm going to go through this a little bit, you might think this is corny and I'm being kind of joking around, but this is serious stuff. And the best tools are simple. So I'm going to show you how to use this. So, attitude and skill. Obviously, when you hire somebody, you want both. right? Whether the job's going to be a developer, whether the job's going to be a salesperson, you want a great attitude. I'll go, boss. I'm part of the team. Let's go. I'm going to show up early, stay late. Oh, and you want the skill. You want them to be able to do the job. Okay. Now I'm going to break this down a little bit more. You can just follow along. You can take a piece of paper and draw a graph like this. One bar, and you can have skill on the bottom and attitude on top. Doesn't matter. But I'm gonna put this into quadrants now. We're gonna break it down like MC Hammer here. Break it down. Break it down. So I'm gonna make a dotted line in the middle of this and break it into 4 quadrants. And this will be easier to understand. Maybe I can hold it here so my light's better. I don't know. So there you go. Attitude and skill. Now, let's start with this lower box here. Somebody who has a bad attitude. So this is bad attitude. This is good attitude. You want good attitude, in case you didn't know that. And you want high skill. Let's say somebody has no skill and a bad or a blah attitude. That was little Jimmy in 4th grade. Okay, little Jimmy in 4th grade. Not a very good attitude. He wasn't, he was kind of shy and he had no skill. This is an absolute no hire zone. Okay. Now, I also use this same graph. And by the way, you can ask me questions in this. You can put them in the Q&A at any time. This is the no hire zone. I also use this graph when I'm managing people and I'm managing my team and I'm evaluating people. I'm evaluating whether they get a raise, a promotion, a new job, right? So this is no skill. Why would you ever want to hire somebody with a bad attitude and no skill? You're out. It's easy decision. Okay. Now let's take the other extreme. Somebody's got a great attitude. They're like Ralph Macchio, Karate Kid, when he meets Mr. Miyagi. Teach me anything. I'll do anything. I'll wax on, wax off, paint fence, sand floor. I'll do it all. Great attitude. I just want to learn how to kick some butt. I want to be a karate master. Okay. That's a good attitude. And if they have a great skill, they're already a karate master. This is a superstar. Superstar. I'm going to write that out. And you can write that out. Superstar. And I'll even make a star there. Everybody wants superstars, right? Okay. I'm just identifying the quadrants because people don't stay in their quadrants. Obviously, little Jimmy is not a no hire anymore. I think I'm a superstar, but some people may not. Some people may think I fall in the other quadrants, which we'll get to. But those are the 2 extremes, right? No skill, no attitude, all the skill in the world and all the great attitude. And I'm going to show you how you'll find this out, how you inquire about attitude and skill. So let's take, what is this over here? This is great attitude, but no skill. Great attitude. They got a great attitude. They're all go. They're like, again, Karate Kid. They don't have any skill yet because they get kicked out in the sandlot. They get their rear end kicked. But they got great attitude. They'll do anything, right? They are called, in India, I'll use the Indian name for this. I spent a lot of time in India training recruiters. They are what they call in India a fresher. A fresher. Right out of school. Right? Here, I'll hold it like this. They're right out of school. They're gung-ho. They'll do anything. They want to learn. They got a great attitude. They'll show up early, leave late, as opposed to the next person, which shows up late and leaves early. They'll listen. They'll ask questions. They'll engage. They'll volunteer. Fresher. This, by the way, is what little Jimmy had to do in the sandlot before he got the skill. I had to get out of my shyness and say, pick me, I'll do it, I can do it, I'll play any. I just had to make myself notice. Now, the last one, you would think is an okay place. High skill and bad attitude. This is the worst hire and worst employee you can have. The worst, bar none. This is the prima donna. Prima donna or prima donna, Rosanna Dana. Prima donna. The prima donna has a lot of skill, but they're a pain in the butt to work with. You know the type. The one who's too good to go to staff meetings, doesn't want to train anybody, walks in late and doesn't. Look, I produce, okay? I produce, so just deal with it. The worst. And the reason they're the worst is they infect everybody else. They infect other superstars to start to backslide. And they infect the freshers to think that that's the attitude, and they become a no hire. So this is the quadrant. Okay, so here's your two skills, attitude and skill. Any job, anytime you're going to pick anybody on your team, you look at these two things. Do they have the ability, and what's their attitude? Now, people don't always fall right in the middle of these, right? So let's say you have a team that you're already working with, a superstar, and they're producing month after month. They meet their goals quarter by quarter, and then they start to kick back, and they start to move. They start to exhibit bad attitudes, and they start to move to this area. I'll let them know that. In fact, this is the employee evaluation report I give to all recruiters, account managers, leads, directors of recruiting, operations, finance. I give this to everybody that I manage when I manage people to say, put yourself where you think you fit. And what you'll find is people will go, well, I think I'm kind of here, right? They're a superstar, but they're telling me I could develop some more skill and I could probably get a better attitude. No, nobody ever puts themselves here, right? Nobody puts themselves beyond the breakaway of the attitude line. They usually put themselves on the other side of the attitude line, but anywhere on the skill range. It's funny as hell to do this. It messes with their head. But it's good because it gets on, you can have honest conversations. I'm going to talk about managing, then I'll talk about how you hire people. So, and some people say, well, I'm a fresher, right? I'm down here, but I could learn some skill, okay? Or I got a great attitude. I got a really good attitude, but it's only my first month, right? Everybody plots themselves. Nobody plots themselves beyond in the prima donna or no hire zone. And then my question when I'm managing them is if I have somebody who says they're a superstar, but they're down in this, nobody puts themselves up where the star is. Nobody says I'm here because that would be an egomaniac saying I don't have anything to improve, right? So if they're here, I say, okay, great. The question is, are you interested in developing your skills? I don't ask them if they're interested in developing a better attitude. I'll tell you about the attitude in a minute. Are you interested in developing new skills? And they say yes. And I say, which skills would you like to learn? I'd like to learn how to better handle objections with a client. I'd like to learn how to better control my candidate in the interview process. I'd like to learn how to, if they're a programmer, developer, I want to learn how to, work in C# or HTML. Great. Let's set up your training, your educational program where you're going to upgrade your skill. Now, I can say, then when I ask the question about this quadrant, why did you put yourself here and not an inch farther? I'm just asking that. Why did you put yourself here and not an inch farther? Well, I think I could have a little better attitude. Can you give me an example? What type of attitude should you have that you're not? Right? Well, who in our team exemplifies a better attitude? Oh, well, this fresher does. He's much more enthusiastic. Good. What would you need to do to move towards that? Are you willing to do that? Here's the thing. I do not change people's attitude. I point it out. Right? Here's the other thing I'd ask this person if they're right on the bar. What should I do if you fall behind this line? What should I do as your manager if you fall over to that prima donna quadrant? What would you want me to do? That just puts people in well, I want you to tell me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be that person, right? Now, so this is how you manage people, and this is the same way as how you hire people, okay? I'm going to go about 10 more minutes. You can ask questions at any time. How quickly do you think someone can change their placement in this grid? Oh, that's a good question, Jake. So I'm starting to get some questions, and I'll get to those in a minute. Let me talk about hiring and how I ask the question. The skills are behaviorally based interview questions. So if I had a set of skills for a job, they need to know C++, they need to know this, they need to know this. Before I hire, I want to go further on the skill set. What outputs am I looking for from the person who uses those skill sets? I don't just want to interview for the skill set. I want to interview for the output that they would produce as a result of applying those skills. For example, if I'm going to hire a general contractor to build a deck, yeah, of course I want to know that he knows how to make a post straight, and he knows how to build a deck, and he knows how to use a skill saw. But I want to know the output that he's produced. I want to see the decks he's built. I don't want to know that he can just cut a board straight and put a screw in the post. I want to know the decks he's built. I want to see him. I want to hear about the projects that he's worked. So when you're interviewing for skill, the questions you ask are behavioral interview based. I want to know the behaviors they exhibited. So I take the skill set and I ask myself, what outputs do I want the person? If they're a salesperson, the outputs I want is new accounts. Obviously, the skills they would use is cold calling, prospecting, building a funnel, handling objections, presentations, writing RFPs. So those are all the skills, but I want to know how many accounts they bought, what their output is. And then I will ask them the questions based upon the skill like this. Andrew, you're applying for a sales position for our company. Great. As you can see, the skill sets that we're looking for is somebody who knows how to build a pipeline, prospect accounts, qualify accounts, not waste time on deadbeat accounts, handle objections, write RFPs, close, engage the entire organization, right? Okay, that's what we're looking for. And the output is obviously new accounts. I want you to pick one of the skill sets that I mentioned. Writing an RFP, building a pipeline, qualifying an account. I want you to pick any one of those skill sets, and I want you to think of a time when you did that successfully. Take your time, go back in your memory bank, like I just did with little Jimmy out on the playground. Excuse me. Think of a time when you did that and tell me the story. And if Andrew heard what I asked for, he will think about, oh, well, there was a time when I was going after Biorad. It was a medical device company. I knew they had an RFP coming up in 3 months. Because they were in my pipeline that I built from a year ago. And he'll tell me specific examples. He won't tell me theoretical, like, well, what you have to do is stay on top of the client. I don't want, what you have to do. I want to know what he did. So when you're interviewing for skill, identify the skills, identify the outcomes that you want, and then the questions are behavioral based upon, tell me a time when you got this outcome using this skill. And you'll be able to then rate the person on that story on a 1 to 10. And there was a good story, one that was a terrible story. Okay? Now, how do you interview for attitude, right? It almost reveals itself. Just like little Jimmy on the playground, standing there with his big thick glasses, all shy, like a deer in the headlights, not knowing how to get picked. Okay, attitude will reveal itself if you know what to look for. Here's what I look for. Excuse me. I look for if they show up on time. Were they courteous and kind? Would I introduce them to my mother, right? Or my wife? Were they attentive? Were they looking at me? Were they paying attention? Were they prepared? Were they considerate? Did they show that they wanted the job, not just stage performance, but sustainable interest in the job? Did they show me that what over and above have they done to show me they wanted the job? They researched my company, they researched me, they had a portfolio of questions they wanted to ask. This shows me attitude. Now, I can ask a behavioral interview question about attitude as well, okay? And it would sound something like this. Tell me about a time. Everybody's been on teams. Everybody's been on teams. And it can even be a situation. It doesn't even need to be a work situation, Bob, if I'm interviewing Bob for the job. What we're looking for is team players. We're looking for team players. Everybody's looking for team players. We're looking for people with great attitude, go get them, all that. I want you to think about a time, any time in your life. It can even be the third grade when you were on a soccer team. I want you to think about a time where you were on a team and team members started to go the wrong way, meaning their attitudes, maybe they were getting demoralized, maybe they were getting beat, maybe there was infighting, somebody didn't get to be the forward on the soccer team and they had to play the goalie and they didn't want to play the goalie. And I want you to tell me what you did to move team morale up. Take your time. Think about a time when that happened. Think about a time. It can be work related. It can be personal related. Again, I want them to relate an experience where their attitude pulled people toward this and away from this. Okay. Yeah, there we go. We got some questions. If you have questions for me, this is it. It's this simple. I don't know if there's anything else that you would hire for if it wasn't skill and attitude, right? And you pick somebody on your team. That's it. If there's something else, put it in the chat because I can't think of anything. And everybody, even you, and you should do this with yourself right now. I do it with myself every day. Okay. Most of the time I fall into prima donna attitude. Sometimes I'm no higher. I mean, if I'm truthful about myself, my attitude is my worst enemy, right? Usually my skill's pretty good, but I'm a cranky old man, so I get lazy. I mean, that's just me. But I know it. So I ride the edge. You can talk to my boss about that. Oh, here comes Jake. We have some questions. Go ahead, Jake.
I'm back. Yeah, so there were a few questions in the chat as you were presenting. And one of them, I'll just jump right in. Is there any scale to measure skills and attitude? And it's a difficult question, I think, because some people might view attitude differently, if that makes sense. So I guess, what are your thoughts on a measurement of a scale in regards to skills and attitude?
Well, skills are measurable based upon the output and the production they've done.
Agreed.
They're accomplishments, not just that they had the responsibility, but they did something with the responsibility. So you can measure that output, right? It's measurable. How did you help save money, make money, solve a problem, build a system, train and motivate people to do that? So that's measurable. Attitude is subjective, right? And I'm not saying everybody needs to be rah-rah like Jim Coughlin, that attitude, that might not fit in a lab environment, for example, right? Or developers who just code. But there's still a palpable attitude quality in any job, whether it be a coder, who just sits and writes lines of code by himself. The attitude might be you're willing to take advice, counsel, and criticism on your code, and take suggestions on how to write it differently, or, be willing to work on an aspect of the work that maybe not be as glamorous, right? So, or work as a team with each other, or be willing to, so there's qualitative aspects of attitude, but it's a behavior that is exhibited day after day after day. And I go back to Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi. The kid could have said, I don't want to wash this old man's cars. I'm done, right? And he walks away. It's not the attitude that's going to be a top karate player, right? Now, maybe you don't need a top karate player. You just need an average one. So he can wash a couple cars and go away and he'll be okay, right? So this is subjective, just knowing human behavior. This one is very measurable. Okay. Was there another question? Jake, are you there, Jake?
Yeah, one of my questions was actually talking a little bit about how easily you can change your placement in the grid, and more so on a personal level, where I would like to say, I would probably in the fresher area, slowly moving out of the fresher area. And I'd like to say I'm slowly moving into the superstar area, but do you have any tips in regards to help my acceleration in that right direction? Like, do you recommend picking up new skill sets, or I guess that's my question.
Yes, great. That's a great question. How do I go from fresher to superstar? Well,
Yes.
obviously your boss, if you've self-identified, it's like self-identified. I'm LGBTQ. I'm a fresher. LGBTQF. Okay. So you've self-identified as a fresher. You can go to your boss and say, here's where I think I am. What do I need to do for you in terms of output that will take me to here? And they may say, if you could add this, this, and this skill, you could move up to a superstar. I'll give you a personal experience. Janine would love it, my boss, if I could sell and call all of our customers and upgrade them. I don't like doing that. It's hard for me, and I got a bad attitude about it. I don't want to do that. So I keep myself from being a superstar. The other way, so that's the first way, talk to the person that pays you the moolah and say, what do I need to do? And that obviously just going to the person saying, what do I need to do, immediately moved you on the attitude scale, right? That's the attitude I want. Somebody wants it. What can I do? Great attitude. I'll tell you what you can do. The second way, Jake, is that you identify people that are doing the things that you want to become. Okay. And I'll give you an example of that. In 2005, I went to Bangalore for the first time to build an offshore recruiting center. And the only reason, well, the secondary reason that I went, just as close as the first reason, is I wanted to learn yoga from a yoga master. And I didn't know who it was going to be, but I knew there's probably a really good yoga master over in India. And so I went on the company's dime to build an offshore recruiting service so that I could spend time and maybe find a yoga teacher. And I did. And I found one of the world's most renowned, successful, kind, instructive, informative, educated, diligent yoga instructors who took me under his wing. And I've been working with him ever since for 16 years. And it's changed my life because that's what I wanted to become. And so I was willing to do it and willing to find somebody that could be my mentor. So it's mentoring, right?
Great.
It's mentoring. So, and one way to do that, Jake, if you're in marketing, which you are, there's different marketing associations. There's different, look, and you don't want to look the next level up from where you are. You want to look 3 levels up. 3 levels up. So if I'm a marketing manager, I don't want to look at a director of marketing or a vice president of marketing. I want to look at a senior VP of marketing, and find out the path that person took and the skills that they think I should have to move to that role. That's how you learn. That's again, it's in Major League Baseball, right? You go to the minor leagues and you get AA, AAA, and then you go in the major leagues. And when you're in the major league locker room, you're talking to the veterans. When you're a rookie, you're talking to the veterans and saying, how do you do it? How do you work through this process? Okay.
Makes sense. We just got a great question from Sherry in the audience too. So
Yeah.
Sherry asked, what are some ways to determine where someone's attitude is on the scale when their shyness or low self-esteem gets in the way of them being able to sell themselves?
That's a great question, Sherry. If, again, I have employees rate themselves. So I would give you this blank, except for the prima donna, superstar, fresher, no hire, and have you put a dot where you think you fit. And if I were evaluating you, I would do the same thing. So, and then we compare. So Jake thinks he's here, he's a fresher moving up to a superstar. I might already think he's in a superstar and he can just move up. So I have a higher opinion of his skill set than he does. Or he may have less of a opinion of his attitude than I do. So the first thing you do with an employee or a new hire is you compare your graphs. I'm rating you, you're rating you, and we compare. Now, if Sherry thinks that she's shyer than I think she is, right? I'm going to say, Sherry, you might need to get a different perspective on how people view you, because I think you're more outgoing than you think you are. You think your attitude, you're shyer than this, right? But here's the thing, Sherry. As a manager, I can only point out attitude. I can't correct it because it's attitude. I want the employee to own it. The only way I'm going to correct attitude is if they pay me as a psychotherapist to correct it. And that's not what I am. What I am is the boss or the hiring manager, and I need a job to get done with a particular attitude. You have to bring that. My job is to point it out. Now, Sherry, if saying determine where someone's attitude is on the scale when their shyness or low self-esteem gets in the way of them being able to sell themselves. So if it's shyness, right, and low self-esteem, that was little Jimmy out in the playground. I didn't know how to put my hand up and say, pick me, pick me. And my low self-esteem was because I didn't have the skill to play kickball or volleyball or baseball or whatever the game was, foursquare. And so I had to be willing to learn the skill. So, Sherry, if you want to become less shy, if you want to increase your self-esteem, if that's your self-evaluation, you go, like I just said a moment ago, Jake, find people with high self-esteem and who aren't shy and find out how they did it, right? And you learn from them and you do what they did. Okay, next question. We have any more?
Right. Let's see. Let me scroll up.
How many people rank themselves as a superstar? I want to know that. We got 28 people watching. How many people rank themselves as a fresher? Did anybody say they were a prima donna or a no-hire in their job? If you ranked yourself right now, where would you put yourself? And would you probably be right in this quadrant here? Most people are going to show up right here, right? And if you picked superstar, what do you need to improve? If you picked fresher, what do you need to improve on attitude and skill? Right? Rate yourself.
Yeah. Sherry has a good comment too, just commenting on her previous question, saying that she deals with a lot of young people. She's hiring a lot of young people. So a lot of people are probably going to be falling in that fresher quadrant.
Right.
And I guess
right.
my question is going off of Sherry's question, right?
Yeah.
Even as a fresher, let's say there's a handful of freshers, even though they're not classified yet as kind of like a superstar or a no-hire, how well do you think, or how quickly do you think you can really kind of determine which direction they're headed?
Well, yeah, it's great. It's great. Great question. I've worked with a lot of freshers, and the thing that I know, this multi-general workforce.
Yeah.
Young people, old people, right? Old people, young people, is that the freshers or the new generation wants to get the experience of the senior person. They don't want to be told what to do, but they want to know the path. They want to know, they want to learn from my experience. So what I can offer, and what the young people, Sherry, fresh, strong stem cells, they're young, they're resilient, right? I mean, they're energetic. Is I want to channel their energy. I want to make sure that their energy is channeled and stays at a high level. I don't want them to get discouraged. I want them to see a path. So my job as a manager or leader is to show a path and the steps for them to get what they want. So all this is talking about what I want. I want a certain skill for a particular output. When I'm hiring, I've got to relate what I want to what they want. So here's my fresher over here. I got a great attitude. I can tell them, and it's an exchange. I can help you build a skill, and from the benefit for me is helping you build the skill is I'm going to get some output. I'm going to get some work. I'm going to get some production. I'm going to get some new clients. I'm going to get some code written. The benefit for you is it will accelerate your career, so your income potential goes up, your opportunities expand. You'll be at the leading edge of your age group in terms of income, status, skill set, opportunities. Are you willing to make this exchange with me? That's what I do when I hire young people, and they go, absolutely. I have over my shoulder here, there's one, there's another. I have two daughters, they're twins, they're 30 years old. I still think of them as 6 years old, and they hate that. But they're 30 years old. One is a senior instructional designer at one of the most successful global construction companies in the world. And she's risen up the ranks as a result of this, okay? Because she's got a great attitude, great work ethic. But also, she builds her skills and asks her boss, what can I do? The other one, that one, Haley, is on her way to becoming a partner track at the largest industrial or architectural firm in the world. For the same reason, she graduated top of her class. She's an architect, so she went after skill, and that's what twins do, right? They pair. So she was the skill person. Just went to Cal Poly Architecture School, became top in her class in architecture, got hired by the top firm. The other one had a great attitude. She had an education too. She had an English degree, but she went on the attitude track and asked for the skill. This one had the skill and worked on the attitude track. So it's either one. But when you're young, you're Ralph Macchio, you're Karate Kid, right? You need guidance, and they're looking for guidance. And that's what that whole story of Karate Kid, I love using that example. It's like, I have the willingness, teach me how to kick tail. Teach me how to throw a karate punch. I'm willing to do anything. And that's what I want. I want to channel that. So I hope that helps, Sherry. Oh, perfect. She said perfect. Great. So hey, if there's any other questions, I've got a few more minutes. Otherwise, make your grid, skills and attitude.
For sure. And feel free to connect with Jim as well on LinkedIn. I know he's always very active, always having, Club VMSA, those daily chats. If you ask me, Jim, I would say you're a superstar and that this presentation was a superstar session. So thank you again for being one of our presenters today at Ceipal Connect. Jim and Janine, great to work with you guys. If you guys haven't checked out Club VMSA, please do so. They're always hosting some great events and talking with some great people for more and more insights. So Jim,
thanks, Jim.
Thank you again.
Peter.